Arham, 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 Arham.
Om Rishabhaya Namaha. Om Rishabhaya Namaha. Om Rishabhaya Namaha.
वीतराग परमात्मा महावीर को नमन। अनंत शक्ति के स्रोत परम पूज्य आचार्य श्री महाश्रमण जी को नमन। Brothers and sisters, today is very auspicious day, Akshay Tritiya, unperishable third. Akshay Tritiya is a religious perv, but it is also a cultural perv, not only Jain, but it is all over in India. Akha Tej, Akshay Tritiya is Anpooch Muhurt. It is very auspicious because whole day, whatever you want to start, you can start. If I see behind the scene, the historical perspective, Adinath Bhagwan, Rishabhnath Bhagwan, he today did Paranu of his 1 year and 40 days Upavas. We follow his footprint, but it is very hard to follow in the same way. Today, more than thousands and thousands people, sadhu, sadhvi, sravak, shravika, they do parana of Varshitap, but their Varshitap is bit different or more different from Adinath Bhagwan. During the time of Adinath, the physical body, mental stamina, and the capacity of their tolerance power was immense. And due to that, he was on 1 year and 40 days fast, without water, without food. So we follow him as alternate days fasting. Today, science has proved fasting is very good for health, for immunity, and for increasing the tolerance power. And also it is very good through the result of testing. If someone is in the fast, it's intermediate fast, and so many scientific research proved it. So today we remember Adinath Bhagwan on this auspicious day. And also I would like to say that JVB is going to start a new chapter. The youth lecture might be once in a month. We will invite our youth. We would like to listen them. What is their thought? How they think about our Jain philosophy, how they make a bridge between Jain and Western philosophy, and how our youth can take Jainism far behind, far better, and I can see them as the torch bearer of our Jain tradition. So today, on this auspicious day, our Kevalee Shah is going to present on Western perspective and on Jain philosophy, how there is any connection, how philosophy is, there are meeting point, and how philosophy have some distance to each other. So here we can see the Kevalee born brought up here. So she has that idea and that thinking inside her, but she born and brought up in a religious family. So I hope she can marry both things together well, and she can present in her own way Indian, Jain and Western philosophical perspective. So I'm not speaking much today. just pray to Rishabh Bhagwan, bless all of us in imperishable Akshay Tritiya in mind, body, health, and in education, and strength to strength in every field, that we can grow with the blessing of Bhagwan Adinath, and we can pray that this pandemic situation, we can make our spirit higher and higher, and solution is always there. You see, after dark night there is a dawn, and we pray for that bright dawn on this auspicious day of Akshay Tritiya. And also I pray for those old tapasvi who did a great commendable work during these days and carry on their tapasya. So Om Arham, Om Arham.
Omar and Samiji, and thanks a lot for this brilliant introduction. Can I please request Pragna Ben to introduce and welcome Ms. Kevalee Shah for this first talk? Thank you.
Thank you. Om Arham, Jai Jinendra, all good afternoon. On behalf of JVB London, it's my pleasure to welcome Kevalee Shah to give a talk on Western philosophy and Jainism. I'm so proud to introduce Kevalee whom I knew since very young age. She used to come with her parents to JVB for all the lectures for Samnijis and sitting quietly beside her parents at Kenton Derasa. A very humble little girl who has achieved so much over the past 10 years. Kevalee has been blessed by respected Samnijis since a very young age. She and her brothers used to be regular visitors for respected Samnijis every Sunday and learn Bhaktamba Sotra and Arhat Vandana and other Jain prayers too. Kevalee is currently reading computer science at Cambridge University and is the founding president of the Cambridge University Jain Society. She was also the treasurer of the Cambridge University Vegan Society. It is pleasure to note that perhaps for the first time in Cambridge, a vegan and Jain meal was served at their formal meals. Well done, Kevalee. We are all looking forward to today's talk on the similarities and differences between the Western philosophy and Jainism. So Kevalee, the platform is yours now. Thank you.
Vandami Namansami Shramniji, and thank you, Pragnanti, for your introduction. I'm really looking forward to giving a talk. Today, I'll be exploring key concepts in Jainism and comparing them to the eminent ideas of Western philosophers. Have you ever wondered about who you are, where you have come from, what is truth, and what is morality? You are not alone in this. As far back as we look in time, people have continually grappled with these questions, and the quest of finding these answers seemed to be the essence of philosophy. There have been notable philosophers from both the East and the West trying to explore these different questions, and it is interesting to see how different approaches have been taken to answer the same questions and often reach similar conclusions. Eastern philosophy tends to center around the idea of how to attain salvation, whereas Western philosophy has been centered around satisfying intellectual curiosity. Today, I hope to compare Jain theory and a few key Western philosophers. In order to draw comparisons, firstly, let's make sure we all have a basic understanding of Jain theory. Gautam Swami, the first Gandhar, disciple of Lord Mahavir, once asked, Kim Tattam, what is the essence of beings? To which he replied, Upaneva, Vigameva, Duveva. Everything is created, everything is destroyed, everything is persistent. This short and succinct answer, called Tripadi, is astoundingly the basis on which the 12 agams, Jain scriptures, have been written. But this Tripadi seems somewhat contradictory. How can something be created and destroyed while still being persistent? From the Tripadi arises, in my opinion, one of Jainism's most unique principles, Anekantavad. Literally, the word means the theory of non-one-sidedness. The beauty of Anekantavad is that it shows each view has an element of truth, and for complete truth, we need to put together all different perspectives. A logical implication of Anekantavad is Syadvad, the doctrine that all judgments are conditional, holding good only in certain conditions, circumstances, or senses. It accepts that something may appear to be true from one viewpoint, but may appear to be false from another viewpoint. We do not have the multidimensional view of the whole truth, but only a tunnel view as limited by our senses and our mind. In this comic, you can see blind men touching different parts of an elephant. One thinks that it's a snake, one thinks that it's a rope, another thinks that its legs are pillars. But once you put together all the different views, you can actually see that what the men are seeing is an elephant. Syadvad comes from the Sanskrit syad, meaning from a certain perspective. And this fundamental idea in Jainism results in the fact that any absolutist position is logically avoided. However, this begs the question, what is truth? The Sanskrit word for truth is satya. Satya is one of our 5 Mahavrats, or major vows, of Jain philosophy. But it is a word that appears all across Indian culture, from Gandhiji's Satyagraha movement for independence, which comes from the Sanskrit compound of Satya and Agraha, meaning polite resistance, and when put together was the foundation of his passive resistance, non-violent movement. Sikhs also have the greeting Sat Sri Akal, which comes from Satya, and the word for time, Kal. The negates the word, and therefore it means no time or eternal. Therefore, this beautiful greeting means truth is eternal. The concept of reality in Jainism also comes from the word Satya. Sat in Jain metaphysics means truth, reality, or existence. Sat, from the perspective of existence, denotes dravya and paryaya. Dravya means substance and paryaya means modes. Jains believe that the two are inseparable but distinct. Dravya is eternal, whereas paryaya is constantly changing. An example is gold, whereby the substance is the element of gold itself. However, it can take the form of a coin, of jewelry, of a bar. Substances can undergo transformation, as seen through the gold example, but never transmutation. Gold can never become silver, and silver can never become gold. We can see how Bhagwan Mahavir's principle of Tripadi is relevant here. The changing of mode can be viewed as a creation and destruction of the particular mode, but the substance itself, the gold, does not change and therefore is persistent. Dravya, substances, is classified into 2 classifications, Jiv, which is living, and Ajiv, which is non-living. Ajiv is split into a further 5 categories, Dharmasikaya, Adharmasikaya, Budgal, Akash, and Kal. We will go into detail on all of these later on. Therefore, in total, there are 6 key substances that constitute the Jain universe. Jains believe Dravya is real and eternal. The type of the Dravya can never be changed. If something is a Jiv, it has always been a Jiv and it will always be a Jiv. And a Jiv can never become a Ajiv and vice versa. However, there is continual interaction between Jiv and Ajiv until liberation. Let's take a closer look into the Jiv substance. Jivas have 2 subcategories, Siddha, which are the liberated Jivs, and Sansari, which are the non-liberated Jivs. The liberated Jivs are formless, they have all the pure qualities of the soul, they're all equal, and they're in a state of liberation, which is what all Jains are striving for. They do not have any physical body and therefore are known as Asharir. The soul has infinitely many qualities, as will be shown in the next slide. But the 4 main qualities can be seen through the BIKE acronym. B for blissfulness, I for intuition, K for knowledge, and E for energy. The Sansari Jeeves are the non-liberated Jeeves. They are found all over the universe apart from the Siddhshila, which is where the liberated Jeeves reside. Sansari Jeeves have karma and therefore are in the Sansari, or the worldly cycle of birth and death. All Sansari Jeeves have up to 5 bodies associated with them. The Odrik Sharir, which is the gross physical body that humans, plants, animals have. The Vaikriya Sharir, which is the transformation body, which the hellish and the heavenly beings have. The Aharak body, which is the translocation body, created by developed souls. The Tejas Sharir, which is the bioelectrical energy body. And the Karman Sharir, which is the karmic body. The Tejas and karmic bodies are constant companions of the soul until liberation. On this slide, you can see that Jayacharya, who was around in the 19th century, has described in detail about the infinite qualities, and over here there are 48 qualities shown of the soul. Now let us look at Ajiv. Acharya Kunkun Swami, in his works, has described Ajiv in great detail. There are 5 subcategories. Dharmastikaya, which is the auxiliary cause of motion. This is not to be confused with motion itself. An example that is given is a fish in water. If for a fish to move, the water has to be present, but the water doesn't cause the fish to move. The fish is still making its own independent choice of moving. The water just needs to be present. Adharmastikaya is the facilitator of rest. Similarly to the facilitator of motion, we can take the example of a tree. Imagine you're a traveler in a desert. It's very hot and you want to take some rest, but the sun is beating down upon you. When you see a tree and you see the shade, you are able to take rest. The shade doesn't cause you to take rest, but it facilitates that you are able to take rest. Then the 3rd subcategory is Budgal, matter. This involves solid, liquids, gas, karmic particles, and they have the properties of color, texture, odor, and taste. Akash means space, which accommodates itself and all the other substances in the world. And Kal, which is time, which is the cause of continuity and succession. To conclude this section, it is important to mention the key theory of karma, which is integral to Jain philosophy. Jains believe that every single thought, word, or action you take has some karma associated with it, which binds to your soul. The whole point of liberation is to free ourselves of these karma, the bad and the good, until we reach a complete, neutral, pure state of just the soul and free ourselves of this worldly life. The binding of the karma to the soul depends on the following 4 factors. The nature of the activity determines the type of karma. Either it's punya or pap, and Jains also believe that there are 8 categories which karma can fall into. The quantity of the karma, which is actually physically the number of particles that bind to your soul. The duration of the karma, how long it sticks to your soul, and the intensity of the karma, which depends on the intensity of your passions when the action was taken. For example, if when walking to school or something, you step on an ant, like you by mistake kill the ant, but your intention wasn't to physically kill the ant. Whereas if you're a murderer and you physically want to murder someone, the same action of like killing is undertaken, but the intensity and the intensity will be much different. Now that we have explored Jain philosophy in brief, let us now move on to the Western philosophers and compare them to Jainism. Of course, there are going to be vast differences, but what I'm more interested in is the overlap. I find it fascinating that 2 completely different schools of thought, probably unaware of each other's existence, were able to come to the same conclusions as each other. Any talk on Western philosophy would be lacking if the big 3 were not mentioned, namely Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle. Socrates, who was around from 470 BC to 399 BC, is thought to be the father of Western philosophy. He is thought to be one of the earliest moral philosophers in the Western ethical tradition of thought, and his contributions to ethics and epistemology have shaped the thinking of philosophers right until this age. Since he made no writings himself, most of what is known about him is through the works of his student, most notably Plato. We can draw a similarity to Lord Mahavir here, as he himself just gave sermons, but it was only after his death that his disciples and acharyas who came after him started writing down his work. So we actually have the agams to refer to now. So Socrates was actually sentenced to death. He was charged with corrupting the minds of the youth of Athens and of impiety, not believing in the gods of the state. Socrates was actually given the chance to escape from jail. However, he chose to spend his final hours discussing the immortality of the soul in his prison cell with his friends, before, in the morning after, taking the poison to end his life. As Plato puts it, he believed that the whole life of a philosopher is preparation for death. His death is described in the final of Plato's famous dialogues, Phaedo. The subject of Phaedo is the immortality of the soul. It is striking to see how similar Socrates' and the Jain view of the soul really is. In Phaedo, Socrates explores various arguments for the soul's immortality to show that there is an afterlife in which the soul continues to exist following death. The four main arguments are the opposite argument, the recollection argument, the affinity argument, and the argument from the form of life. We will now look at these four arguments in detail. The first argument is the opposite argument. The soul has to be immortal in order to counter the mortal nature of our bodies. It is also known as a cyclical argument, as it explains the cycle of life and death. According to Socrates, the soul withdraws completely intact from the physical body at our death and enters another body at birth. The soul brings life and is eternal and unchanging. As discussed earlier, Jains also believe that the soul, or jiv, is one of the six dravyas, and the six dravyas have the property that they are eternal. Jains also believe that upon death, that the soul leaves its odrik sharir, the physical body, and that until liberation, it keeps on cycling through the four gatis, which are human, plant, animal form, or heavenly and hellish being, and the four heavenly and hellish beings. Socrates says that the soul brings life, and we too believe that the jiv is the only living substance in the universe. All the other substances are ajiv. The second argument is the recollection argument. This theory is another way of explaining the soul's immortality. Socrates' view is that learning is actually an art of recollection, recollecting things that we knew before we were born. Socrates' view is that the true knowledge is knowledge of the eternal and unchanging forms that underlie perceptible reality. He believes the innate knowledge that we have is a recollection of the knowledge we had prior to birth, and therefore, because we have this knowledge, it implies that the soul must have existed before our birth. This is strikingly similar to the Jain belief. One of the main qualities of the soul is infinite knowledge, and the karmic bondages on the soul is the reason we do not have full access to this. In Jainism, we believe that there are 5 types of knowledge. Matignan, which is knowledge obtained by normal means of mind and senses. This is known as an indirect knowledge because the soul acquires the knowledge via senses and mind. Shrutagnan, which is knowledge obtained through signs, symbols, words, hearing from the wise, and reading scriptures. Avdignan, which is direct knowledge of matter without the means of mind and senses. Manaparyanan, which is direct knowledge of and thoughts of other living beings. And Kevalee is the final form of knowledge, which is infinite knowledge, which is knowledge of everything, both in the past, present, and future. This is the knowledge that we get when we lose all our karmas and become a liberated soul. So these 5 types of knowledge can actually be classified in 2 different ways. direct and indirect. A direct knowledge is knowledge that we get straight from our soul, which is similar to Socrates' view of the knowledge that our soul has before birth. And indirect knowledge is the knowledge that we get through our senses and through reading. So now the third argument is the affinity argument. Socrates has a belief that there are two kinds of existence. One is the visible world that we can perceive with our senses, and the other is the invisible world of forms that we can access solely with our minds. It is divine, immortal, and eternal. The soul is more like the second world, whereas our physical body is more like the first world. This, once again, is very similar to the Jain philosophy. We believe in a place called Siddhshila, which is divine and immortal place where all liberated souls can reside. And we also believe that the Jain, that everywhere apart from Siddhshila in the Jain universe is where the sansari souls, which are the worldly souls, can reside. For example, Earth is one such place where humans, animals, plants can all live. The fourth and final argument is the argument from the form of life. Socrates believed that forms can never be converted into something of their opposite. Therefore, since Socrates believed that the soul partakes in the form of life, or is the reason that we have life, then the soul can never admit the opposite of the form of life, namely death. And therefore, if the soul cannot cause death or be death, then the soul is eternal. Conceptually, this is quite different from the Jain view of immortality, but nevertheless, for completion, I have included it. In Phaedo, Plato also proposes one of his most famous philosophical theories, the theory of forms. This is quite abstract, but it is the theory on which Plato and Aristotle differ the most. Plato believes that forms are an ideal type of the properties and objects that are found in this world, and they exist outside space and time. The form is ideal and real, and everything that we see on Earth has a real ideal form. Let's take the example of these apples. One is a red apple, one is a green apple, and one is a rotting apple. They all look different, but we know that they are still all apples. And the reason that Plato believes this is the case is because they all partake in the form of apple, that there is this abstract ideal concept existing outside this world, which is the apple form, and anything on Earth which we call apples partakes in this form. The modes, the form of the apple keeps on changing, whether it's moldy, red, or green, but the form itself remains constant. Compared to Plato's more idealistic abstraction, Aristotle's view is more based on his observations of the world around him. Aristotle also believes that forms are real, but he held that forms exist in the things themselves around us. Aristotle argued that the forms, which he often equated with essences, exist in real things. Human minds are equipped with the rational power to abstract these essences out of the real things in order to know them as universal. For Aristotle, the form is a determinate structure, which gives things their essential characteristics or attributes. Matter, on the other hand, the ultimate substrate, is the matter out of which all physical things are made of. Therefore, evidently, for Aristotle, form is more important than matter, as form actually tells you what it is, and matter is just the composition or the physical, what makes it a physical object. This study of matter and form is called hylomorphism. We can compare Aristotle's form and matter to paryai, modes, and dravya, substance. Just like all sat is a composition of dravya and paryai, and while they are distinct things, they exist together and are inseparable from each other. This is the same for Aristotle's matter and form. Jains believe in the changing nature of paryai, the modes, and Aristotle also believes in the continuing nature of form. They both believe that the paryai, the modes, and the form are not absolute. However, Jainism believes that dravya is eternal, unchanging, whereas for Aristotle, matter is also not an absolute and changes. Jains believe that if something is ajiv, it will always be an ajiv. It cannot change. However, Aristotle does not believe this is the case. We can look at this view of the gold example, that Jains believe that a gold can change from bangle to a coin to a biscuit, but the gold element will still remain the same. But Aristotle does not share this view. To conclude this section, Jainism has striking similarities to Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle. And for me personally, it was fascinating to read about the actual mention of the soul in Plato's works, as currently in Western doctrines, the soul is no longer mentioned. Next, I would like to talk about René Descartes. He was born at the end of the 16th century. He was a mathematician, a scientific thinker, as well as being a metaphysicist. He is most famously known for his words, cogito ergo sum, I think, therefore I am. Descartes is the originator of Cartesian doubt, a form of skepticism that is used to doubt one's own beliefs in order that you can reach the conclusion of which you can be certain is really true. This is the basis of his famous cogito statement and where he actually got it from. So Descartes said that he was able to doubt everything apart from the fact that he was doubting. And since doubting is a form of thinking, there must be a thinker to do the thinking. Therefore, by being certain of the fact that he is thinking, he is also certain of himself. Jains believe this to some extent as well. Knowledge and the ability to think comes from the soul, or jiv. All classifications of ajiv, dravya, the non-living substances, are unable to think and therefore have no concept of I am. Just because we have a soul within us, or we are the soul, are we able to think? Any other matter, Pudgal, is not able to think because it is not living. Descartes was also a believer of the dualism of the mind and the body. Descartes could doubt the existence of his body, but because of the cogito, he could not doubt the existence of his mind. Descartes was able to identify different properties of the mind and the body, and therefore he concluded that they must be different, that there is a separation between the mind and the body. We can loosely compare this, his concept of dualism, to the Jain version of dualism, which is the dualism between the soul and the body. We believe that we are not the body, but that there is a soul within us, and that's what we truly are. The soul and the body are two distinct entities, since we believe that jiv and ajiv are two different dravyas. Okay. Lastly, let us look at Immanuel Kant. He is an influential German philosopher, popular in the 18th century. He is particularly noted for his influence on epistemology, the theory of knowledge, and ethics. As a break from all the metaphysics, we will look deeper into what Kantian ethics are. Kant believed that in order to determine what is right, we have to use a combination of reason and consideration for other people. He believed that everyone has a certain morality that is independent of their other religious beliefs. So whatever religion that you might follow, there are certain things which are universal and applicable to everyone, and those should be your moral values. He believed that there were two classes of actions: hypothetical imperatives and categorical imperatives. Hypothetical imperatives are actions that we should take if we want to achieve something. For example, if we want to get rich, we need a job. If we want to get a job, we need to study. So this whenever you have an if statement, that's when they're hypothetical imperatives. Categorical imperatives, on the other hand, are actions we ought to take regardless of whether doing so would enable us to get anything we want. And this is what morality should be based on. These categorical imperatives are derived from pure reason, and they're a moral obligation that bind all of us. It says, act only according to the maxim whereby at the same time you should will that it should become universal law. That is one of the subsections of the categorical imperative. and it is the universality imperative. You should only take an action that you are happy for it to become applicable to everyone. So for example, if I say, oh, it's okay if I tell a little white lie in this case, because it's just, I'll only do it once, or it's only me doing it, no one else should be lying. But that's not right. If you've taken that action, if you've taken the action of lying once, you should be happy that the action of lying can be taken by everyone. And obviously that's not the case. We can't have a society where everyone is lying to everyone else. And the other subsection of the categorical imperative is the humanity. Act in such a way that you treat humanity, whether in your own person or in the person of any other, never merely as a means to an end, but always at the same time as an end. In plain English, this means don't use people for your own personal benefit, as we have to recognize that they too have wishes. Treat people with respect and dignity. Jains, of course, believe in this. This is almost at the heart of what we believe. We recognize that all souls are equal and independent. And I mean, Jains take this even further. They don't just believe this for humans, but for all forms of life, plants and animals included. We believe in the principle of live and let live. And I can see that this Kantian ethics kind of ties very closely to karma theory, as we believe that whatever actions we take also have consequences, and therefore we should act in a way that we're happy for other people to act the same way towards us. A big criticism about Kantian ethics is that they're very absolutist. Kant believes that there are no exceptions to moral rules. No lying means no lying. There can never be an instance where lying is okay. But of course, in the real world, that just can't be the case. Sometimes you do have to bend these rules. Therefore, utilitarianism, which was thought of by Betham, almost counters this belief, where he says that there are no absolute correct things to do, but instead, the morality of the action is determined by the consequences that action can lead to. He says, the greatest happiness of the greatest number is the foundations of morals and legislation. Therefore, if you can make 100 people happy as opposed to just 10 people happy, or just making yourself happy, the action which causes 100 people to be happy is the moral action that you should take. I personally believe that Jains tie both of these opposing views together very beautifully. We have Mahavrats, which are major vows, and Anuvrats, which are minor vows. Mahavrats are undertaken by sadhus and sadhujis, and they are the absolute vows. They are non-violence, truth, non-stealing, brahmacharya, which is control of your passions, and non-possessiveness. And these, for when sadhus and sadhujis take these vows, it's absolute. They will never lie, they will never steal, and they will, as far as they can, they will never cause violence. However, Lord Mahavir, he obviously recognized that for the lay person, this form of living is not possible to conduct a business, to lead a worldly life. We are not able to uphold ourselves to these strict absolute values. And therefore, he came up with the Anuvrats, which are the minor vows. And these minor vows allow for some transgressions to be made. So while you still try and stick to the absolute vows as much as you can, there are some relaxations which allow us to lead a normal life. So that concludes my talk. Thank you very much for listening, and I'd like to thank JVB for giving me this opportunity. The Shramnijis have been a key part of my life ever since I was born, and I'd like to thank my parents for ensuring that I've continually had their presence in my life. Thanks also to my dad who helped me with the Jain theory part of this presentation. I've had lots of fun coming up with this presentation. I'm really amazed by how Western philosophy and Jainism has such a big overlap, and that these two schools of thought might not actually be as different as we might initially think. I welcome any questions that you might have.
First of all, thanks a lot, Kevalee, for such an engaging and focused presentation. Thanks a lot for that. If I were to give my personal opinion, this is the first time I've heard and seen such a presentation specifically pertaining to Jainism. So thanks a lot for that. I'd like to open the forum for questions. So the way to ask questions is all the participants can write down the questions in the Zoom group chat, and we'll pick out as many as we can and ask Ms. Kevalee for her response. Meanwhile, we've got our first question, Kevalee, for you. It starts with a compliment, first of all, that Mr. B. Shah feels that it was a very engaging and very nice presentation. And the question is, as you're reading computer science, are you saying that AI will never be able to think for itself?
Wow, that is actually very relevant. Yes, of course, I am studying computer science, and I hadn't really thought of that, but that, I think from the Jain perspective, it would mean that AI can never genuinely have the, so we believe that the soul has qualities like infinite knowledge and infinite bliss and infinite energy. And this element of infinite, I don't think AI will never be able to genuinely have, because at the end of the day, it is matter. So however much it seems like it has unbounded knowledge, the true infinite knowledge of what's happened in the past, present, future, of what's happening all the time, I don't think AI will ever be able to have. And that's just my perspective.
That's a very nice perspective, and also something, a perspective which is shared by Alibaba's founder Jack Ma, who also repeatedly in his conversation states the same thing, that despite his own organization is involved in some of the most cutting edge AI in the world, yet he does believe that AI will not be able to replace humans or be able to think for itself. We have got more comments and compliments for you. Ms. Bindi saying, thanks a lot for your inspiring talk. Mr. Bharat Shah saying, thanks a lot for the excellent talk. And we do need people like you to inspire our wider young Jain community in UK. Totally agree and second that thought. Ms. Neil Shah saying, exceptional and excellent presentation. Thanks a lot. People, can we have more questions if you'd like to ask? Okay, so we have another question for you. Thanks for the clear exposition. Have you come upon Spinoza's philosophy? I hope I have pronounced it correctly. And there are many similarities with Jainism. So have you come across that name, Kevalee? And any thoughts on that?
I have come across the name, but unfortunately, because of time limitations, I didn't really look into that a lot. I know that Spinoza has lots of similarities with Jainism, but unfortunately, I'm sorry, I don't really know that the exact details of that.
Lovely. Thanks a lot for that.
So first of all, lots of thanks and blessing to Kevalee. Really, it is a Herculean task. And, you know, sometime the comparison, like consciousness, just I would like to stir a bit more about it. The consciousness which the Western philosopher believe, or Western philosophy present before us, is a bit different than the concept of the jiva and consciousness of like Jain perspective. I think that because the consciousness in Jain is due to Gyan and Darshan. And Gyan and Darshan, we cannot carry a single or minute small thing with us. But according to Jainism, what you built here, the perspective of your knowledge kingdom, that knowledge kingdom you carry on many lives.
Yeah.
And that knowledge kingdom, when totally the cover is annihilated, then the pure self itself is knowledge. Because the oldest scripture, Acharang, and there, what is Aya? What is the Atma? What is the self? And the Sutrakar explain Je Aya, Se Vinaya. So knowledge is self and self is knowledge. vice versa. We cannot separate in any condition. Even the soul migrate through the worldly life, and during that time, our one sutra, that is the sutra of knowledge, Nandi Sutra. And Nandi Sutra explains that in any incarnation, in any life form, might be fire-bodied or air-bodied or water-bodied or plantation-bodied, soul always keep knowledge.
Yeah.
So sometime I think we need to read more that what is their concept of consciousness. And I think Kevalee, this is really difficult to compare two things which have different mindset. The Indian mindset and the mindset of Western mindset. And again, two different philosophical stream. I understand they come so closer, but saying one is really, really difficult. I hope you agree with it.
I agree. Definitely.
Yes. And I would like to request JVB youth, like Kevalee set the ball rolling, and also on the day of Akshay Tritiya, imperishable. So let us have this opportunity, and I'm looking that many names are there in my list, that once in a month we can have a youth lecture, and we can have a Saturday. So Saturday is a good day that youth is there and relaxing at home, so they can present in different perspective. Those who are in the medical profession, those who are in different profession, they can compare Jain ethics, Jain idea, Jain philosophy. So really it is a good start. And I would like to bless Kevalee for future achievement, future progress, and future positivity in every sphere of life. And I would like to recite a Mangal part. So Mangal part. So please fold your hands in prayer pose. अपने आप को मंगलमय बनाने के लिए अक्षय तृतीया का मंगल पाठ। चत्तारि मंगलम अर्हंता मंगलम सिद्धा मंगलम साहु मंगलम केवली पन्नतो धम्मो मंगलम। चत्तारि लोगुत्तमा अर्हंता लोगुत्तमा सिद्धा लोगुत्तमा साहु लोगुत्तमा केवली पन्नतो धम्मो लोगुत्तमो। चत्तारि शरणं पवज्जामि अर्हन्ते शरणं पवज्जामि सिद्धे शरणं पवज्जामि साहु शरणं पवज्जामि केवली पन्नतं धम्मं शरणं पवज्जामि। विघ्ने हरणे मंगल करणे स्वाम भिक्षुनो नाम गुणियो लख समरण किया सरे अचिंत्या काम। अंगूठे अमृत बसे लाब्धि तना भंडार। श्री गुरु गौतम समरिये मन फलदाता। ओम ऋषभाय नमः। ओम ऋषभाय नमः। ओम ऋषभाय नमः। ओम ऋषभाय नमः। और विशेष रूप से सरस्वती आराधना, भगवान आदिनाथ और श्रुत देवी आराधना के साथ मैं आज का कार्यक्रम संपन्न करूंगी। ओम अरहन मुख कमल वासिनी पापात्मक क्षयंकरी श्रुत ज्ञान ज्वाला सहस्र ज्वलिते सरस्वती मत पापम हन हन दह दह क्षां क्षीं क्षूं क्षों क्षः क्षीर धवले अमृत संभवे वम वम हूम हूम स्वाहा। ओम अर्हम ओम अर्हम ओम अर्हम।
Om Arham Samiji, thanks a lot for that. For the benefit of all the people who have participated in our talk today, there are lots of programs which are going on in JVB. To get all the information, you can go to our website, jvblondon.org, or you can get connected over us on the WhatsApp, where we send out daily notifications of the talks that are happening on a daily basis. There are up to 6 talks or 7 talks that happen on a daily basis on certain days. The next one that we have coming up is Tapayog in Jain tradition. That's the talk that Samni ji will take tomorrow at 11. Then we've got daily meditation sessions. They start as early as 6 in the morning, and very very enriching sessions. We've received very good feedbacks and very good things about these lectures. Then there are Bhaktamar Stotra learning sessions which are happening on a daily basis from 7:30 to 8 in the evening. Samni ji herself takes that session for the kids, and they're learning the Bhaktamar Stotra. Just imagine, in a matter of 48 days. Apart from that, we also have children's Gyanshala every Saturday. So, for example, we had one today at 11, and the recording of that is present on YouTube as well. We've got yoga and meditation sessions. Again, the details are available on our website. And lastly, we've got a lecture series which is running, and we had the first of that session on mantras on this Friday. Again, all these sessions will be made available to you at the comfort of your home. So please feel free to participate, and please reach out to us if you need help in connecting over the same. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot again, Samni ji. Thanks a lot, Kevalee, for a wonderful session today, and hoping to see everyone around.
Arham, 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 Arham.
Arham, Arham, Arham,
अरे हम 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 Arham, 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 Arham. Arham, 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 Arham. Arham, Arham,